What if everything you've been doing in your prayers has been wrong? Not because God doesn't want to hear you, not because you lack faith, but because the way you've been addressing Him, the very manner you frame your words and thoughts, isn't aligned with what truly opens the doors to the supernatural. What if I told you that perhaps you've spent years believing you had to ask, and ask, and ask, when, in fact, the key isn't in the asking, but in something much deeper, more intimate, more transformative? Have you ever stopped to wonder why, so often, you pray with sincerity, with tears in your eyes, and yet it feels like nothing happens? Is God ignoring you? Was the promise not meant for you? Or could it be that there's a principle woven into the scriptures that most people have never noticed? A principle that completely changes how prayer works? What I'm about to reveal to you isn't a common interpretation. It's not what you hear in the Sunday sermon or read in quick posts on social media. It's a concept that directly connects the law of attraction, the act of manifestation, and the most profound teachings of the Bible. This is a form of prayer that doesn't just speak to God, but also shapes your mind and your reality so that the answer becomes inevitable. Have you ever noticed that Jesus never prayed as if He were pleading? He didn't spend hours saying, "Please, Lord, make this happen." Instead, He declared, He gave thanks. He affirmed as if it had already come to pass. This isn't a coincidence. It is a principle. And this principle is so powerful it can shatter years of frustration, of prayers that seem to vanish into thin air. What's most striking is that when you grasp this, your faith ceases to be an act of trial and error and becomes a state of certainty. It's like shifting your position from someone who begs to someone who receives, and this isn't arrogance. It's alignment with what Jesus taught and lived. But here is the detail that almost no one talks about. This way of praying doesn't start with the mouth. It starts with consciousness. It is in what you feel, in what you believe, in what you visualize when you are alone with God. And when you understand that prayer is also an act of creation, your life transforms. Because suddenly, you realize that every word you speak is planting something in your future. In the next few moments, we will walk through this revelation together. You will understand what Jesus meant when He said, "Whatever you ask for in prayer, believe that you have received it, and it will be yours." You will see that there is a turning point, a moment when your prayer ceases to be a cry in the dark and becomes a seed sown in fertile ground. And I need you to stay until the end, because the final insight I will share is the most powerful of all, the one that will connect all the dots and make you never pray the same way again. Before we continue, if this message has already started to resonate with you, I want you to do two simple things right now. First, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss anything. Here, every video is designed to expand your consciousness and bring you closer to your purpose. Second, when you finish this video, look at the first pinned comment. In it, I've prepared content to deepen this experience even further and help you put these principles into practice immediately. This isn't theory, it's real practice that will start to change your world from the inside out. Now take a deep breath, because what comes next may challenge everything you thought you knew about prayer and manifestation. Are you ready? Then let's begin. If you've now understood that perhaps you've been praying differently than how Jesus taught, it's time to break this down. Not for you to feel guilty or inadequate, but to free your mind from patterns that have held you captive for years. When you kneel and begin to speak with God, what goes through your mind? Perhaps images of the problem, perhaps words of desperation, maybe even that quiet feeling of, "I don't know if this will happen, but I'll try." That is the wrong starting point. Because true prayer, the kind that moves mountains, doesn't begin with the need, but with the certainty. Jesus made this clear in Mark 11:24. Whatever you ask for in prayer, believe that you have received it, and it will be yours. Notice He doesn't say, believe after it happens. He says to believe the moment you ask. And believing in that instant isn't just positive thinking. It's feeling as if it were already done. It is a leap of consciousness that takes you from a place of lack to a place of possession. The law of attraction calls this a vibration. The Bible calls it faith. They are two words for the same principle. What you believe and feel now shapes what you will experience later. And this is where many go wrong. They pray with the right words but with the wrong energy. They ask for peace while vibrating anxiety. They ask for provision while vibrating a fear of scarcity. And do you know the result? This vibration is the soil where the seed of your prayer falls. If the soil is full of stones of doubt, thorns of worry, and sand of mistrust, the seed cannot take root. Therefore, before you open your mouth to speak to God, the first prayer must happen within you, aligning your mind and your heart with the certainty that it is already yours. Think of Jesus himself facing impossible situations. When he multiplied the loaves and fishes, he didn't ask, "Father, please send food." He gave thanks as if he already had it. Even before the miracle happened, he acted like someone who already saw the solution. This wasn't a performance, it was a genuine state of conviction. And here is something few people mention. Anticipatory gratitude is the language of faith. When you give thanks before you see, you are declaring to yourself and to the spiritual realm that you already believe in the outcome. It's like a signed contract. You don't wait to receive in order to believe. You believe in order to receive. But there's something even deeper. Praying correctly isn't just about changing what you say, but changing the image you hold. Because God responds to faith, and faith isn't just words, it's vision. When you pray, you need to see the miracle happening. Close your eyes and visualize it. Imagine the exact scene, you receiving that answer, living that moment, feeling the emotions you will have. This is not self-deception. It is aligning your mind with the promise, not with the problem. However, there is a subtle enemy that steals the power of prayer: haste. How many times have you prayed and minutes later started to worry again? That's like planting a seed and then immediately digging up the soil to see if it's sprouting. Faith doesn't work that way. When you release your prayer, you must let go. And letting go isn't giving up, it's trusting. Perhaps you're thinking, but it's hard not to think about the problem. I know. That's why Jesus insisted so much on the renewal of the mind. The right kind of prayer is accompanied by a lifestyle that protects that faith. This means choosing, day by day, to feed your mind with words that reinforce certainty, not doubt. It means stepping away from conversations that undermine your hope. It means literally shielding yourself emotionally so that what you planted is not uprooted. And here comes a delicate but liberating point. Many people believe that praying a lot is the solution, spending hours repeating the same words as if God were measuring the time. But Jesus warned against vain repetitions. This doesn't mean you can't pray multiple times about a matter. It means it's not the quantity of words that opens heaven, but the quality of the faith that accompanies them. A single sentence spoken with conviction is worth more than 1,000 words spoken in fear. Remember, I promised the last revelation would be the most powerful? It begins to take shape here. Prayer and manifestation are not two separate acts. When you pray with faith and continue vibrating in that faith, the answer doesn't come from outside to you. It comes from inside out. The kingdom of God, Jesus said, is within you. This means the seed has already been placed there. The right prayer waters that seed, and manifestation is the natural fruit of its growth. But for this to be real, you need to understand the difference between asking and claiming. Asking starts from the principle that you don't have it. Claiming starts from the awareness that you already have it in Christ. It's like an heir who doesn't beg for his inheritance. He simply presents the document that proves it is his. When you pray, present your faith as this spiritual document. Perhaps now you realize why some prayers seem to go unanswered. Not because God said no, but because the way they were made didn't create space for the manifestation. Heaven is not closed. It is your perception that needs to open. If this is making sense to you, Remember, in the first pinned comment of this video, I've left content that will help you apply this principle practically in your daily life. It is the bridge between hearing and living, because it's not enough to understand. You need to experience it. And now we arrive at the final revelation. The most powerful prayer is not the one you make on your knees with hands clasped, but the one you live at every moment. It's when your mind is in constant prayer, not in the sense of speaking non-stop, but of remaining in a state of continuous faith. It is looking at any situation and instead of reacting with fear, responding with conviction. It is already done. It is refusing to speak words of defeat, even in the face of hardship. It is becoming, literally, a magnet for the promises that God has already released over your life. When you reach this level, prayer ceases to be just a moment and becomes your way of being. And that is when manifestation is inevitable. Because you and God begin to walk in the same rhythm, on the same frequency, like two who already know the end of the story before it even happens. In the next moment, when you close your eyes to pray, remember, do not implore, do not beg, do not lament. Affirm, thank, visualize, and feel. Enter God's presence not as a stranger knocking at the door, but as a child who already has access to the house. This is the correct way to pray. This is the key that was hidden, and now that you have found it, everything can change. So now we reach the moment where everything connects. Perhaps, throughout this video, you've realized that the way you used to pray carried something you didn't notice. A subtle sense of distance. It was as if God were up there, on high, and you were down here trying to reach him. But the revelation you've received today completely changes that perspective. What Jesus taught, and what the law of attraction confirms as a universal principle, is that this distance never existed. God is not a distant destination. He is the very presence within you. What you call an answered prayer is not a package that comes from the outside, but the materialization, in time, of something that was already released in the Spirit. Your faith is the bridge that brings the invisible into the visible. When you pray with this consciousness, every word becomes a seed, every thought becomes water, every emotion becomes light for what is to blossom. That is why, from now on, your prayer can no longer be moved by fear, but by certainty. Because when faith takes root, the miracle ceases to be a possibility and becomes an inevitable destiny. Perhaps now you are remembering moments when, without realizing it, you prayed in this way and saw the answer almost immediately. Do you know why that happened? Because in that moment you were completely aligned, without doubt, without anxiety, without haste. You believed as one who already possessed, and that is precisely why you received. The conclusion is simple, yet transformative. Praying correctly is not a magic formula. It is a state of being. It is deciding every day that your mouth will only speak what builds, that your mind will only imagine what you wish to see, that your heart will only feel what you wish to live. It is becoming intentional in every thought, because you know that every thought is a silent prayer. And here is something I want you to carry with you for the rest of your life. Prayer is not just for moments of need. It is also for moments of gratitude, for ordinary days, for hours when nothing seems urgent. Because it is in this constant flow of gratitude and faith that you maintain the fertile ground for new blessings to manifest. Now, I must extend an invitation. Don't just keep this in your mind, put it into practice. In the first pinned comment of this video, there is content I prepared especially to help you apply this form of prayer in your daily life. It is something that will make you experience, in practice, what we have just discussed. It's not about learning more, it's about living differently. And before we close, I want you to imagine something. Close your eyes, take a deep breath, and see in detail that answer you desire. Feel the joy as if it were already happening. Give thanks. Say, in your own voice, that it is already done. Remain in that feeling for a few seconds. That is the seed. That is the prayer that transforms. So from this day forward, when you kneel, remember, you are not speaking to convince God to move. You are moving to align yourself with what He has already prepared. This is the correct way, and now that you know this, there is no going back to the old way of praying. Heaven is already open. All that's left is for you to walk through. If this message spoke to your heart, leave your like now and subscribe to the channel to continue receiving content that will expand your faith and transform your way of living. Here, every word is crafted to touch you deeply and awaken what is most powerful within you. Because, at the end of the day, the right prayer isn't just something you say, it's something you become. And when you become the answer itself, the impossible ceases to exist.